What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you, this time on ESPN. This is a 12-team full point PPR mock where we have the 7th overall pick. Should be pretty interesting as always. And if you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe. Let us hear it in the comment section what you thought of these picks, of the teams, along with any other questions you guys might have. And while you're at it, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com and get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you could want at a great value. Top 150 overall player ranking standard and PPR formats, individual player bios, tiers, projections, and general fantasy football advice. All the details in the description. And also check us out on Twitter at alldaypigskin to continue communicating with us there. But in the meantime, this draft has kicked off, and for the most part, we've got a full lobby. Nothing too crazy yet. Christian McCaffrey with the 101. That's pretty much going to be the case every single draft that you see, especially in PPR. You can have a discussion in standard type scoring that, Derrick Henry should be the first pick overall. But in this case, McCaffrey, no shock there. Barkley, a little bit too high for me. Then Dalvin Cook, who would be my 102, followed by Derrick Henry. Okay, makes sense. Ezekiel Elliott, then Alvin Kamara. I have no problems with these first 6 picks. Honestly, if I'm selecting this, it would go pretty similarly, except that Austin Eckler would be in the 3rd or the 4th slot. That's how high I am on him. Now, again, Austin Eckler, pretty much, you're going to hear me say his name every single mock draft that we do. He's the guy that we're hanging our hat on. But here, we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're just going to go and take Aaron Jones because I'm curious to see how far Austin Eckler falls. If it's going to be into the 2nd round, if he'll be picked in the 1st round. Just pretty curious to see how these platforms have him going, what other people think of him. Obviously, here ESPN has him as the 11th overall ranked player. I don't disagree with that. I'd have him a little bit higher, again, in PPR formats. But I went with Aaron Jones to kind of switch things up a little bit. Another guy that's pretty safe, maybe probably a little bit more fluctuating in terms of his performances. But with Aaron Rodgers there, he's pretty much that secondary weapon to Davante Adams. Last 2 years, he's been a top 5 running back. So that was the logic with the Aaron Jones selection there. And afterwards, let's look at some of these picks. You see a Jonathan Taylor, who, again, I would say his more of a standard scoring running back, especially now, obviously Naheem Hines there, Marlon Mack is going to be back. Then Travis Kelsey, this is one of the earliest slots I've seen Travis Kelsey go in, the 109. I, am a little bit hesitant to take him early in the 2nd round. This early on, I would be passing on that. I'd rather take one of these running backs, one of these wide receivers, but that's me personally. Then you see Davante Adams, the first wide receiver off the board. Cam Akers, the guy that's, becoming a trendy first round pick, followed by DeAndre Hopkins. Very early for DeAndre Hopkins, I would say, considering guys like Tyreek Hill and Calvin Ridley are still on the board. There you see Austin Eckler. We get sniped there. That is unfortunate, but them's the breaks. So right now we have got a couple decisions to make. Do we want to go wide receiver? Do we want to go running back? If it's running back, do we go with Nick Chubb or do we go with a guy that has a little bit more PPR upside? I'd be looking at a Joe Mixon. I'd be looking at Antonio Gibson and, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I think it's too early for CEH. So I'm honestly probably leaning Antonio Gibson to, again, get that PPR upside. I think it's going to be a high-scoring offense. If you believe what's been said so far by Washington, they want to continue to grow Antonio Gibson's role, so I like to hear that. Look, I think I could have gone a number of different ways here if I went running back. Joe Mixon is a guy that I like. I think he's going to have higher volume. DeAndre Swift, a little bit too early for me, especially with the Jamal Williams signing there. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, curious to see that, ESPN, I think, has him ranked, well, a little bit higher than some other platforms that I've seen. And obviously it's, still June, so these rankings are subject to change a boatload for a couple weeks from now to a couple months from now, all the way to August. You get the point. But as things stand right now, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a sneaky good value. If he falls to us in the third round, I would be very happy. Just loading up on running backs, I think we'd have a tremendous trio. Other guys that I'm hoping fall to us: Michael Thomas, Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen was someone that I would have mentioned, especially in PPR scoring. I wouldn't even mind Allen Robinson. I think he has got some really nice upside. Chris Carson is someone that I really, really like. But, these picks are going pretty, I would say, normally right now. Just kind of recapping after our selection of Antonio Gibson, you saw Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Metcalf, A.J. Brown. Maybe slides a little bit due to the Julio Jones trade, because normally I think you'd see him, earlier on in the second round. Then you see J.K. Dobbins, way too early for J.K. Dobbins, in my opinion. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a better pick. Chris Carson, a better pick, especially in non-PPR formats. Miles Sanders, Keenan Allen, Justin Jefferson. Great value on Justin Jefferson. Darren Waller, good value on him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like we mentioned, someone that we like. And now it is our turn again. And boy, oh boy, did we get lucky. Michael Thomas in the third round in full point PPR scoring. That is an absolute steal. I think this is the biggest steal of the draft so far. But me personally, I think whoever the quarterback for the Saints is, Michael Thomas will be just fine. And he's going to be peppered with targets. And he's going to return to form from maybe what we saw in 2019, where he was the number one overall wide receiver. I'm really excited about him. You can get him at a discount because obviously he underperformed big time last year and burned a lot of people after being the first wide receiver taken in drafts. So now getting him, even at the end of the second round, to me, that is great value compared to just the other wide receivers that went at that point. Maybe I will say in this case, there was good value of wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, but Michael Thomas to me is a little bit above Keenan Allen. Justin Jefferson, you can have a conversation. Just again, great value on Justin Jefferson. But going back to the big board, I want to see other players that maybe might be dropping or that ESPN has ranked lower. So the first thing that stands out, George Kittle still on the board. Usually he is the second tight end drafted, but I can appreciate the fact that these other individuals see the value in Darren Waller. I love Waller. He's my second ranked tight end. But George Kittle right now, you could argue is a very good value, but I'd rather go wide receiver and then kind of hope that I can get a TJ Hawkinson or a Kyle Pitts later on. At wide receiver, the guys that I would be looking at: Robert Woods, Julio Jones, and other potential guys, probably a Cooper Kupp. I'm not really looking at Mike Evans. I don't think that he's really a wide receiver one even. I think he's a low-end wide receiver two, especially in PPR scoring. So there's just too many mouths to feed in Tampa Bay. Tom Brady is not going to air it out unless he has to. To me, Julio Jones, even going to Tennessee, he could have gone to a lot worse situations. He's a low-end wide receiver one, and worst case high-end wide receiver two. He's going to benefit from having A.J. Brown opposite him. I think he's still got upside of 1,100 to 1,200 yards, so I am high on him. I can still get him at good value here. The fourth round, that's tremendous value for Julio Jones. Take advantage of those types of drops in value. Let's, again, quickly go through parts of the third round, parts of the fourth round. After our selection of Michael Thomas, you see Allen Robinson, good value on him as well. Josh Jacobs, I think that's a reach considering Chris Carson is there, who has top 10 running back upside. Amari Cooper, David Montgomery, I'd probably be passing on Montgomery. Just too many things to worry about. The schedule isn't going to be as cushy. Tariq Cohen is back. Damian Williams has been brought on. That offensive line still has some question marks. he's not going to duplicate a top 5 finish. There's going to be major regression. Then in the 4th round, Myles Gaskin, Adam Thielen, Travis Etienne. What? Way too early for Etienne, considering Kareem Hunt was still there. The rookie in Etienne, who is supposedly going to be only a 3rd down back and primarily a pass catcher. Yeah, I'm not interested in that at all. Then George Kittle, again, good value. I think we got, again, back-to-back really good values at wide receiver after doing a pretty good job at running back with Julio Jones. Then Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I will say, wherever you draft Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, the other guy should follow suit. And then on top of that, Antonio Brown should immediately go afterwards as well. That's obviously not going to be the case because these platforms, whether it's Fantasy Pros, whether it's Yahoo, whether it's ESPN, for some reason, they just are not respecting Antonio Brown. In fact, I'm kind of curious to see how low they have Antonio Brown ranked for Tampa Bay, but to me, he is in the exact same category as Mike Evans and Godwin, all the way down to 93. That is insane. Lower than Marquise Brown, lower than Laviska Shenault, lower than Corey Davis. What in the world? Take advantage of that value while you can. I continue to say it. On some other platforms, people are coming around and having him ranked higher, but I love the upside for Antonio Brown. So the way this thing is going right now, though, I quickly want to look at some tight ends. I want to see where TJ Hawkinson is ranked, unless he's already been drafted, all the way down to 79. I think, again, that's way too low. 25 spots lower than Mark Andrews. Are you kidding me? That is not accurate at all. I'm going to be taking him shortly, but right now I'm looking at Tyler Lockett. I'm trying to see if there's some running backs here that have kind of fallen to us. Mike Davis, actually not a bad pick right now, all things considered, in Atlanta. At PPR, maybe he'll get some, extra targets now with Julio Jones gone. Out of all the other running backs, he's the one that I would even remotely consider here. So let's get him. Can never have enough running back depth. And then afterwards, I do think we can land, fingers crossed, TJ Hawkinson. We'll see. I'm curious to see how these other individuals that are drafting value the tight end position. Also, I will say Tyler Lockett was someone that I was considering at wide receiver. And I'm kind of starting to worry now that auto pick might ruin our dreams of TJ Hawkinson because Mark Andrews just got selected, I believe, on auto pick. And we'll see. Jamar Chase just goes, Dak Prescott before, along with Odell Beckham. I'm curious to see what quarterbacks are left on the board right now. Lamar Jackson is still on the board. That is absolutely insane. That's such good value in the 6th round. Man, oh man. I think he's got huge upside. And of course, TJ Hawkinson gets sniped from us only a couple of picks before. I probably should have gone TJ Hawkinson, the round before. But them's the breaks. I kind of got a little bit greedy at the running back position. In this case now, with TJ Hawkinson off the board, if he's still there, I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson, but we might get sniped at that position as well because, there's quarterback needy teams, and right now that's just very good value. Other guys that I would consider here, I do want to see how low Kyle Pitts is on these rankings. He's probably the next best available guy at number 80. Yeah, so one spot, I believe, if I remember correctly, lower than TJ Hawkinson. But right now, I'll go with Lamar Jackson because the other quarterbacks, I think, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, nothing wrong against them. But right now, tier 1 quarterback Lamar Jackson this late, I think that's just very good value. Some picks here, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyler Boyd. I think it's a little bit too early for Tyler Boyd considering some of the other players that are still available. Looking at an Ayuk, looking at a Claypool, hell, even a T. Higgins. So that's just something to keep in mind. So we'll have our answer here very shortly if we can get Lamar Jackson. And yes, he is still there. And yes, you better believe that we're going to go with him. I think at this point, quarterback was a position of need, and he was by far the highest upside quarterback available. yes, I could have gone someone like a Jalen Hurts much later on because the likelihood that someone like Kyle Pitts will be drafted, well, we see it shortly thereafter, DJ Shark, then Kyle Pitts. I think a lot of these, again, selections have kind of turned into auto pick. That's kind of what happens at this point in the draft. That's the only unfortunate thing, as opposed to maybe if we were doing this on Fantasy Pros, where it might be a little bit more accurate. But I did see just, better value with Lamar Jackson. I thought there'd be a better chance that Kyle Pitts drops to us than Lamar Jackson, so I kind of gambled. But, what we're going to have to do here, instead at the tight end position, I'm looking at names, Logan Thomas, Dallas Goedert. I don't want to stack guys on Washington. I already have Gibson. So probably looking at Goddard, not nearly as much upside as Kyle Pitts or Hawkinson, like not even remotely close. But them's the breaks. The one thing I probably would have done differently here is instead of taking Mike Davis, I would have taken TJ Hawkinson, because if I had Lamar Jackson, Aaron Jones, Antonio Gibson, Thomas, Julio, and TJ Hawkinson, that to me, honestly, is an A type of draft. I'd be very happy with that actual roster. So, the takeaway message, when you have a chance, go get your guys. And especially if it's a tight end position, just kind of, expect TJ Hawkinson probably going to go in the 5th, 6th round. I got cute here and waited. But now, before taking Dallas Goedert, let's see if there's somebody else here that's worth a selection. I've mentioned Antonio Brown before, but we can wait on him and just go with Dallas Goedert here. He's going to have a role in the offense for the Philadelphia Eagles. We still don't know what's going to happen with Zach Ertz, but he's overtaking him as the tight end number 1. So let's get him on the squad. I think he's got the highest upside out of all the remaining tight ends. Not as good as it could have been with Kyle Pitts or TJ Hawkinson. I think, that drops our grade maybe, significantly, if you will, at least at the tight end position it does. But I'll say right now we're working with a B type of roster because we still did get depth at the running back position with Mike Davis. I'm curious to see what will happen with Davis in terms of whether he will get actually the bulk of the carries and he's going to see the type of volume that he did when Christian McCaffrey was out with the Panthers and Davis was the substitute. That's going to be, if that's the case, then Mike Davis right now is, a great value pick. I do think there's a chance that his ADP increases once we get closer to August. And obviously at that point in time, we're going to have more answers with battles, etc. But again, right now, after our selection of Dallas Goedert, you see Laviska Shenault, Will Fuller, T. Higgins, good value on Higgins, Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, Devonta Smith, and now, again, we're getting a lot of auto picks. So right now, just looking at value, Melvin Gordon is still available, even though, he's a guy that I'm not really all that interested in. Right now, if you're desperate at running back, you could do a lot worse, but just interesting to see how low ESPN has Melvin Gordon ranked. In fact, funny to see Javonte Williams get drafted ahead of Melvin Gordon, considering he is actually the starter. But here, look, I mentioned him before. Antonio Brown, extremely undervalued. He's going to be the pick here. I like him as, I'd be all right with him as a flex play. But so far, we've kind of rounded out the majority of our roster. We'll make a couple more picks because this is becoming pretty rapid fire in terms of the selections. And at the same time, we don't want to wait until we see defenses and kickers drafted. That's just, a waste of time. I think we've still got a pretty good picture of what this roster looks like and, good analysis of the picks so far. After this point, guys that I would queue up, Marvin Jones is someone that I've been talking up. Jalen Hurts as someone that could potentially get hot and then you can trade for really good value. That's always a strategy. But let's see if there's, again, anyone we're missing at the running back position. I'm curious to see. Otherwise, I'm going to go with Marvin Jones. Kenyon Drake now with the Raiders, no thanks. James Conner with Arizona, no thank you. Ronald Jones, a little bit tempting, but again, there's so many other running backs there. This isn't standard scoring, so to me, he doesn't have as much value. Jamal Williams is tempting. J.D. McKissic as a handcuff to Antonio Gibson, potentially, even though honestly, if Gibson were hurt, McKissic is still more of a pass catcher. I'm just going to go with Marvin Jones here. David Johnson, I didn't even bother mentioning him for the Houston Texans. That's just an offense that I want to avoid at all costs. Unless Deshaun Watson is playing, then I'll consider it. Now you see a running quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow. So we weren't able to get Hurts, but that's all right. Like I said, we've got Lamar Jackson. We've got a tier 1 quarterback, so we don't have to worry about that. David Johnson then goes Cole Beasley, Irv Smith, Mike Williams, Kenyon Drake, James Conner, Ronald Jones afterwards. So at running back, there's still guys that I like here. Jamal Williams, McKissick. I'll probably go Jamal Williams here. I think he might have some standalone value, depending on if you believe what the coaches are saying right now out of Detroit. Other guys here potentially, let's see, wide receiver. I'm not getting excited about any of these prospects. Oh, Russell Gage actually available still. I think that's a very good value, especially with Julio Jones obviously gone. Yeah, I didn't even realize that Russell Gage was still available. I have him as, a top 35 wide receiver now. That's great value in my opinion. It pays right there to go ahead and check if there's been guys that have fallen. I think maybe Gage, his value hasn't quite been updated to what it should be, but very happy to land him there. And then we'll make probably one more selection at running back and then call this thing a wrap. Queue up a couple of players, and then that'll be it because, as you see, I think everyone other than me and one or two other people is on auto pick. So it's, at this point, just kind of picking the next best available player automatically. And yeah, as you can see, here, I'm just going to go with Jamal Williams. I think he's got some nice upside. You could argue I should go McKissick as a handcuff, but again, to me, Antonio Gibson is a different type of running back than McKissick. McKissick is much more so a pass catcher, and there's a lot of pass catchers already on Washington. Jamal Williams has more standalone value. That's the logic there. So welcome to the team, Jamal Williams. And now grading this roster. Look, Lamar Jackson, quarterback, the upside. The fact we got him, I believe, in the 6th round, that is a tremendous value. I love that pick. Aaron Jones, Antonio Gibson with our first 2 picks. I'm not mad about that. Then I think the best value we got was in the 3rd round. Michael Thomas, tremendous value. Another probably A+ pick. Julio Jones, very happy with that pick as well. I'm higher on him than most still. Then probably our biggest mistake, Mike Davis in the 5th round. Should have gone TJ Hawkinson. I would have felt much better about this roster in that case. Put Antonio Brown as a flex play. I don't care. I think that's still probably going to give me a little bit of a higher grade overall. Right now, I probably call this a B+ roster because our bench also very solid. Brown, Marvin Jones, Russell Gage, great value on him. Jamal Williams, I'm happy with that. But overall, like I said, probably a B+ type of grade. Let me know what you guys thought along with these selections. And again, what you think of the team, along with any other questions you guys might have. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. Check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. Like we said before, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Great value, everything you could possibly want. All the details in the description. And we'll see you guys in future videos.